Get rid of that masking issue. We're gonna take every kick that touches the clap, we're gonna shelf the highs out of it a little bit to make room for that clap. So looking at this here, I would take every second kick, basically every kick that touches the clap, and EQ out the highs, right? So EQ 8, throw it in there, and just shelf down the highs, right? So now it will be very unnoticeable, but when you play it, you clearly, without a clap, you clearly hear that the second kick has not enough highs, right? It's number 1. Okay, so what do we have here? The sub is going directly out, so it's not going for any of the modulators or the effect. On -2, level all the way up, it's the sinus wave. And we're going for the oscillator A. This actually gives it that grittiness where we like. It's basic shapes, and then the wavetable is just above the middle. I use the sync here, sync no window. It's just a little bit above 12, so 3.9%. Unison on 3, detune on 0.04, blend on 75, phase in the middle, randomness all the way up, and -2 in the octave. So right now we are getting pretty much this. Not much movement to it. We want to be able to move it a little bit. I've added the oscillator B with the acid waveform, -1 on octaves, semitone +7, FM from A almost all the way up at 86%, phase in the middle, level all the way down, but we got LFO2 modulating it in this way. Of course, you can play with this as much as you want. We want to add some kind of movement to it, so I've added this to the preset. So together we right now have that. I've added the filter. Let's look at the filter. This is without, just not enough movement yet for me. We want to have some kind of movement in the sound, like I mentioned before. The filter is on MG low 24, affecting just oscillator A. LFO2 is modulating the cutoff, starts on 89, goes all the way up to about 40 here. So now you get this kind of movement, vroom, vroom, vroom. And on FX we have distortion driving about 55%. The EQ lows are shelved a little bit down at 295 and down, gaining it down -10% with a Q of 60%. So that's pretty much it for this sound. So now that we have bassline 1 on check and we saw the preset, let's move on to bassline number 2. As I mentioned before, this genre is really all about the bass hook, and now we want something to complement the first bass hook. It was a lot of high end to it, as though I was thinking for the second bass we want to have something different set of frequencies. So let's check it out. Let's hear bassline number 2. As you can see, this bassline is very mono. That's because the other bassline is so open. We want to give some kind of dynamics with the bassline, so it's not always the same sound or the same frequency range. So we have a different frequency range for this. Let me show you how I did this one. Same thing goes for this as the other one. Sub directly out, level on 43, -3. And the LFO1 is affecting the level. So pretty much starting from low level and going up all the way up. This is how it sounds like that. Now let's add oscillator A. Oscillator A is an analog BD sinus. Not much happening when we add it because we need the oscillator B to affect it. So oscillator 1 is on BD sinus, -3, 1 on the unison, level on about -7.9 dB, wavetable position on 35, phase in the middle, Now FM from B is affecting from the beginning, like from 0 till 50, using LFO1 as the modulator. Okay, this is how it sounds. Now let's add oscillator B. It's on -1, same wavetable in the analog BD sinus, no unison. Wavetable is moved to 178. Level is pretty much on 0 because I'm just using it and it's an FM from B, so I'm not actually using the sound of it, but it's FMing the first oscillator. Okay, so once I add that, let's do it without the filter. This is how it sounds without the filter. Now let's go over and see what is the filter doing right here. MG low 24, same thing as the last preset, affecting only oscillator A. It's not actually affecting the noise because it's not on, so no need for that. The cutoff is on 74 Hz, going up till about 2 p.m, modulated by LFO1. The same modulation goes for everything here because I want to get the same kind of movement from all the things I'm modulating, right? So drive has been modulated also from 5% and till about 8. Fat is modulated as well from about 29% and until about 2. So we're getting that. Mix all the way up, by the way. Pan in the middle, and resonance, which is really important, is in 50%. So right now we're getting that. On the FX, we have the compressor gained a little bit, 6.3 dB. The delay is to your liking. If you want some delay, right now it's not being used. EQ, just cut down a little bit the lows and pushed up a little bit the highs. So in 210 and down, we have a low cut, and then from 2000 Hertz with a 60% Q, we have a 5.9 dB gaining, just to kind of push a little bit the highs, which barely exist. Reverb also, again, to your liking. Just a tiny little touch. See how it sounds with a lot. Just a tiny. We want to have some kind of spacing for it. Hyper dimension. Same thing for your liking. I liked it more mono a little bit, just because you want to contrast the other bassline, which is very open. Let's check it out.
First thing I'd like to break down is probably the most prominent thing, the acapella.
Buy it, use it, break it, fix it, trash it, change it, melt, upgrade it, suck it, fill it, curl it, find it, view it.
I mean, it's like enough said. We got here for the bass line here. You want to modulate your low pass filter quite slowly, but having it like this makes it more of a wub. Play around with that actually, and then I added a clone with that, but with the modulation hitting at the beginning, so you get shorter hits. And obviously just a very simple sub on top of that. You can see I made this. It's literally just sine wave with another sine wave with some, just modified some of these values. And then I've made sure it's bang on mono because you don't want it anywhere else. So
8K all the way till 18K. Hats, open hats, close hats, rides, tambourines, shakers, all those are sitting there. Now we know pretty much about where we need to place every element in our mix. As you could see, the sub of this bass is on 50 Hertz. And that's because of its note. It's a G, so the sub in G is about 50 Hertz. Now, immediately you know that some of those frequencies of the kick and the bass are sitting in the same area. We don't want that because that will cause a distortion because it's masking each other. Duck down the bass when the kick hits. I just use the kickstart, a quick one here, so we know it's ducking at the kick. So together, Now already you know. Let's add to this an hat. I would probably cut this a little bit more, just so that area is dedicated to that hat, you know? As you can see here. Very simply, we're going for one element by one element, seeing how it's working together.